War Eagle, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of E2C Network Live, where we talk about everything that's going on in the world of Auburn news, whether that be on different media publications out there, social media, or the rumors that you want to talk about here. Basically, if it's Auburn, if it's orange and blue, we talk about it here. As always, we come prepared with a topic to discuss, but this show is dependent upon you, the viewer, about what you want to talk about, what you want me to comment on, your questions, your comments. So really, we can bounce around a lot. The topic that I have prepared today is the SEC Big 12 Challenge Preview, the tournament or event as a whole, and what if Auburn can do anything with that. So what I'm actually checking on right here is we've got another, well, I have to double check that real quick. Sometimes I try to let the social media folks come in and be a part of it, but for some reason today that functionality messed up again. So it's just the YouTube folks here today. So welcome. If you are watching live or on the replay, we appreciate you being here and being part of the show and leaving comments and questions and seeing what you want to talk about today. I'm going to remind you of a couple of things here in a second, but I do ask that as you come in, if you are enjoying the content, that you do please smash that like button. I can see that we got in here. Somebody already gave it the downs up thing, which is interesting because it was there before I got here, so I don't know what you disliked. But I appreciate it either way, because thumbs up or thumbs down, it always helps push the stream up there. So thank y'all for being here. Say hello, War Eagle, however you like. If we've got some rogue fans here today that would like to take part in this today, some rivals or Baylor fans, I'd like to hear from y'all too and y'all's perspectives. So don't be shy and let us know that you're here. So a couple things before we get started today. Let's look right here and let me bring this up for everybody. These are some ways that you can help support our podcast network and this YouTube channel. We are primarily a podcast network, but we do this for you all to have something else that you might want to connect with us on. These are some simple ways you can do that by listening to the podcast, joining the E2C Network Booster Club. Speaking of which, it's a great time now to join that. We've had a lot of people join up recently for as little as $1 a month. And you can get yourself some cool perks, be featured on a podcast to tell your Auburn story, T-shirts, all kinds of good stuff. There's a TeePublic sale, too. That's one of the options there. And we do take PayPal donations as well. And if I see the person who sent us a PayPal donation in this stream today, I will give them – I've already thanked them once, but I need to give them a public shout-out and embarrass them a little bit. So thank y'all so much for that support out there that you are always so great at doing. As I said, there is a TeePublic sale. You can get our – logo on a t-shirt for as little as $13 and some other cool things if you'd like to check that out. A couple other things for you all. If you haven't checked out the podcast, I have put the Apple podcast link down there for you if you'd like to go and subscribe and see what we've got going on. No new episodes as of the last broadcast, but we've had a couple of good ones previously that you'll want to make sure you're going to go check out. So the links for all that stuff is in the chat window right now if you want to take a look at that. So I see a lot of familiar faces. Let me say hello to a bunch of you. True GA fans here. Jackson, Jack, Neil. A lot of familiar faces. So thank y'all so much for already being here and being part of the stream today. Let's see. Best news to me in 50 years. Exception is national title in 2010. 91.9 million on our football facility, I guess is what you're talking about. Completed by 2022 July. We are coming back. Flex some financial muscle. Sound the bell. Threw as many slogans in there as you could. Yeah, big investment. Finally, time for that to happen. It's a shame it didn't happen before then. Jackson, I think we haven't seen you in quite some time, so we're happy to have you back on here. You should talk about half the SEC should be on probation for paying recruits. I mean, honestly, Jack, every school is paying recruits in some form or fashion. You know, I've finally realized this in my older age, that every team is cheating. It's to what degree and who does it the least. Gus Malzahn clearly did it the least, to his credit, but also was probably part of his detriment as well. But yeah, there are players being paid everywhere by not just the SEC. But there's a lot of money to go in the SEC, so that kind of correlates there. Yes, Baylor is going to be tough. Hope it's not like the Gonzaga game. So, yeah, we'll get into that in depth in just a little bit. But, yeah, this is, a year where Auburn is playing the number 1 overall team and the number 2 overall team. And I'm not so sure that Baylor's not the better team. Looking at it on paper and how good they look right now. That down button was probably hit by a UT fan. Of course it was. It always is UT fans, isn't it? My dad lives a bit away in Waco and said that people over there are crazy when it comes to basketball. So a little bit of background here for me and why this is an important game. Obviously, it's an Auburn basketball game, which makes it important. But it also is, I have two brothers that are currently living in Waco. I almost said Waco. It is Waco, but Waco. One is graduated from grad school there and is living there, getting his career started. The other one is in school at grad school there. So one is they were raised to be Auburn fans. One is clearly switched allegiances, even though he'll fight me on that to the bitter end. He is a Baylor fan over an Auburn fan now, and he was a Sanford fan. He basically has no fandom. He just goes wherever the wind blows. The other one, I think he still is truly an Auburn fan, but I think he's slowly slipping away. So a little bit of a brother rivalry here with the Baylor-Auburn game coming up. So I do think that it's going to be a great game. It's going to be tough for Auburn to win, especially on the road. Oh, man, that team looks real tough. But yeah, I've been out to Waco, and when I was out there, it was always during summertime, so it wasn't basketball season, so I didn't get really feel that vibe at all. I got to go see the football stadium and stuff like that. It was a beautiful stadium in a very scenic area down by the I forget the name of the river down there, but the river down there. So it's cool. It's out in the middle of nowhere. The city of Waco is about this big, smaller than I shouldn't say it's smaller than Auburn. There's not many things smaller than Auburn, but it's so flat that you can see everything. So it feels like it's bigger, whereas Auburn is on rolling plains, the plains of Auburn. So you get to see less of everything all at once. So it feels a little bit smaller because you're only seeing these pockets. Whereas in Waco, everything's out there. So, yeah, that's my background with that. But it's cool to see that someone else has some connections out there. Auburn's on probation. We are so honest that we are on self-probation. Either we're so honest or we know that there's no way to escape what's coming and are trying to shave off as much time as possible. I don't know that it's us being honest as trying to save face at this point. That's just, I could be 100% wrong on that. But I do think there's a little bit of that going on. All right, let's just quick poll the room right now. What do you think? How's percentage confidence that Auburn beats Baylor? What's everybody think? 0 to 100% confidence that Auburn beats Baylor tomorrow. That's the way we could probably start off the discussion. And by the way, there's plenty of other small news stories out there. The Gunnar Stockton thing, the $91.9 million, I think is what it said for that. Trey Alexander was officially signed by Auburn for next year for basketball. So there's a lot of little small pockets out there, which is why I went with this as our big news story to talk about. But we can obviously hit on some of those if you'd like. Stereotypical Auburn fan in the house. I don't think we have much of a chance, unfortunately. Sharif is just too inconsistent of a shooter right now. Here's the thing, though, that let me challenge that a little bit. And I agree with you that he is inconsistent at the moment, which means if he's inconsistent, means that he can have opportunities where he is better. So what if he does that this game? I also think that what he does the best is set other people up to be successful. And that is the mark of a true point guard. So I think personally, Sharif is doing exactly what he needs to do right now for Auburn to beat them. So he says 15%. That's fair. I understand. Neil's going to go with a solid 50 right there on a push situation. So Neil, here's how I operate, and you answer me if you think that you agree with this line of thinking. And we talked about this in the last live stream earlier this week when we broke down the football schedule. Way too early predictions. I said in a 50-50 situation, in a push situation, I defer to the home team. So home team would be Baylor here. So would you agree with that you would give Auburn the opportunity, but probably still in Baylor's camp? Stereotypical Auburn fan. UJ dropping cash. Well, we've all known that. Kirby Smart is a Bama acolyte, and that's what they do. The problem is that Nick Saban is so entrenched there, and he's untouchable. He's friends with Mark Emmert. We all know what's going on. Students don't drive around in Dodge Chargers. I'm sorry, they don't. There are a few wealthy families out there that go to college at these universities and can afford that, but most of them don't. So there's clearly something going on, especially at UGA too. I'm hesitant still, but since I'm an Auburn fan, so I got Auburn winning against Baylor. Look, hey, there's nothing wrong with Barn and Hard, my friend. Nothing wrong whatsoever. So if you believe that Auburn's going to win Jackson, you keep right on trucking there. Let's see. UGA does well with recruiting quarterbacks. They just can't do anything with them. So true, right? Yeah, they seem to get all of the quarterbacks, but they don't pan out. They don't coach them up. They leave. It's really, and then quarterbacks come there to, for lack of a better term, to die in terms of their careers. I can't even remember the guy's name right now who came over from USC. But yeah, he hasn't had the greatest start ever. But yeah, they do not seem to pan out quite well there. Casey says Sharif goes for 26 against Baylor Saturday against Baylor. Was kind of a little run on, but yes, 26. He's been scoring up in that range quite frequently, so we'll see if he can maintain that. I think if Sharif Cooper does score 25 or more, Auburn wins. And there has to be somebody doing that with him, but if he scores 20, 25 or more, Auburn wins. Right, so if we pick, here's the funny thing, what game we can play. Everybody can play this game right now who in the chat window. Let's put a fast food restaurant bag for recruiting purposes to go with each SEC team. We don't have to do all of them, but it'd be funny to see. So I would definitely put Chick-fil-A and Georgia together. I'd put McDonald's and Tennessee together. Alabama and probably Bojangles or something. I think there's a lot of those up in that part of Alabama. Auburn would be. Gosh, I'd want to say Auburn would be Zaxby's because I'm partial to Zaxby's, but I don't know what it'd be. But you could really play. Oh, somebody else agreed. Auburn would be Zaxby's. Neil White and I are friends forever. Zaxby's is the bomb.com. Here's the funny thing, and we've said this on the podcast network. We will talk about anything. Obviously, always heavy on the sports. We had some of our contributors, I think 2 years ago now, do a best chicken places in Auburn discussion show. I'm not kidding. They did it. Best chicken strips, and I think they took out Chick-fil-A because that kind of is a league of its own. But yeah, I do think that would be a good one for it. Excuse me. Let me back up here. I'm a little lagging behind here. Casey says Auburn has an 80% chance of winning with Sharif on the floor. I wouldn't go as high as 80. I would say that having Sharif gives Auburn a 50-50 chance. The question is, how confident are we that the other players are going to do what they need to support him and take advantage of the opportunities that he gives him? Because he will give them opportunities. Will they take advantage? That's the question. Neil says Fields, Eason and that guy from USC, all highly recruited quarterbacks that have gone to die over there career-wise at UGA. Got a 23 points, 13 assists. That's a pretty solid stat line at Baylor in your first SEC Big 12 challenge for him. I like it. Mitchell made me sad. He would have been the starting point guard last year. So yes, but you've got to look at what we're referring to. One of the big storylines out of this for Auburn fans is the fact that Davion Mitchell, a former point guard for us, he was behind Jared Harper when he first got here, chose to leave and go to Baylor. Worked out for him, right? He's a starting point guard, or he's a point guard. I can't remember if he's starting or not. I think he's a starting point guard. He's on the number 2 team in the nation. He's not on probation with Auburn. That's pretty great. You can't fault the dude for doing that. It makes me sad because I'd love to have him here. And you got to look at what he saw. I think at the time he left, it was Jared Harper's first year. He saw that Jared Harper was the guy, and he wasn't going to get much playing time, and he wanted to be the guy. And he got to go be the guy over at Baylor. So I don't fault him. It does make me sad that we don't get to see him. And I think he left Auburn on pretty good terms. It was just a simple playing time discussion there. But yeah, he would have definitely been the point guard this year. But if that's the case, then maybe we don't get Sharif Cooper. So you got to think about that. Zaxby's is so thank you. See, look, I love these people here on YouTube. Y'all are the best. The fact that y'all love Zaxby's as much as I do. Arkansas would be Sonny's Barbecue. We have a Sonny's right over here. where I live, and it's all right. It's not the best barbecue. It's hard to beat a lot of the barbecue places in Auburn, or around Auburn at least. Bama would be Crystals, yes, because of the gas it gives you. Yes, I will eat Crystals, but I pay for it every single time. Zaxby's fries has the best seasoning. 100% agree. And the crinkle style of it. And when they get them just right, where they're crispy with the seasoning on them, outstanding. Outstanding. These are the things that we talk about here. By the way, I have seen a couple of people do that as we've been talking here. If you haven't and you're enjoying this, please make sure we smash that like button. Help the stream out. And if you haven't subscribed and hit that notification bell, you need to do that as well so you'll know when we go live here, because I do them in random points. We kind of slowed down from our rise towards 1,000. We've kind of stalled out in the 8 teens. So we're like at 815, I think, as of this stream. We need to start getting that going again. So help us out if you can. Share it with a friend, all that good stuff. Another prediction here, 26 points, 14 assists, 5 rebounds for Sharif. LSU would be Popeyes, obvious reasons, NOLA. No, I would disagree with you. And I would say they would be Canes. They are all about some Canes down there. It is disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. Sorry, Canes, if you ever wanted to advertise on our podcast. Probably not a good thing here. By the way, folks, this is my co-host for Inside the Jungle, the basketball show. Everybody say hi to Gray. It says, got to knock down threes and stay out of foul trouble. Really excited for tomorrow. I think there's a lot of excitement in general. And speaking of which, let me give you, I've got the image here that SEC released of all the games that are tomorrow. You can see the matchups here. And I do believe these are all still on at this point. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. I do not think that there are any ones that have been canceled for COVID or anything like that, but I think that is all the matchups at this point. So we'll reference this through while we keep talking here, but I just want to kind of stay on top of y'all's comments and stuff. We have no backup point guard for Sharif. Do you think we go after a transfer to back up Sharif or play alongside Sharif? We probably could. It depends on, it depends on what happens with him after this year. This year's kind of already set in stone. We kind of got to deal with it. Either Sharif's out there or we have to do Alan Flanagan. If Justin Powell can get back, we'll be fine. But I feel so bad about him. I mean, he cannot get better for whatever reason. And I'm really concerned for him, to be honest with you. Go after Burnett out of the transfer portal, Texas Tech. Yeah, here's the thing, though, and I'm not trying to knock like the whole idea of transfers. Everybody gets so excited about the transfer portal, but they're only Band-Aids. I am more of a long-term solution person, and if that means that you have to suffer for a season, I'm fine with it. So I would rather us go recruit a point guard, bring him up in the system, and then fix it that way long-term. Alan Flanagan and JT Thor will both be top 15 picks at some point. I think that is the right statement with the right signifier there. At some point, they got a lot of hype, especially Flanagan early in the season. And I think he'll still remain there. I think he'll still remain discussions, but I'm not so certain that he's 100% ready to go. Could be wrong, and maybe that's wishful thinking. But I think that if Alan Flanagan, JT Thor, and Sharif Cooper decide to stay, along with Jabari Smith, we could have 4 picks next year in the NBA draft, and how crazy would that be? Kentucky doesn't even do that on most years, I believe. Could be absolutely crazy. Of course, then you've got to think, if you're an Auburn basketball player, do I want to compete with the other guys in terms of those few spots that they have on NBA teams for the draft? So, got to think about it. Have a gut feeling that Auburn will win over Baylor. I'll be honest with you, Neil. I do think that I'm feeling optimistic about what's going to happen tomorrow. I am. But I'm not sitting here. My optimism is not also peppered with a little bit of realism and realize how good. So, and here's the funny thing. I was telling you about my brothers earlier. So the one that never talks basketball with me about this, he happens to message me after they had a convincing win over Kansas State. And he wanted to kind of get the whole rivalry started early, so we texted back and forth a little bit about what might happen. So you can tell he thinks he's going to get to beat up on Auburn just a little bit here. if we win tomorrow, the NCAA should rank us at least number 25. Oh, of course. So after you beat if you beat 2 ranked teams in a row, I think that kind of launches you into the top 25 discussion at the very least, if not ranked there. I don't know if they're going to continue to keep us out of it because of not participating this year. I don't think they would, but there's always that in terms of postseason play, because that's really what it's for. I love how Bruce cares more about the players' careers than the team's success. If you need to go pro, he'll tell them to go pro, even if it hurts us. And that's the mark of a great coach, right? It's not about me or my program. It's about you, the players there. And it's about the program because that means the collective there, and it's about something greater than themselves. But I think what that does is, in turns, it allows Bruce to show these players that they care about them. He cares about them so much that it infects their personalities, infects the way they think and they what they believe, and they begin to care about others. And then so potentially, and please hear me when I say this, not saying that Sharife Cooper is coming back. I think there's a good chance he could, but don't get your hopes up on that so you're not dashed. I think that Sharife feels that from Bruce and feels that even if he were to sacrifice a year in the NBA to come back for another year, it'd be worthwhile to him because he's caught the feeling, that thing that Bruce is selling. Going to make a t-shirt that reads, "At least we're not Tennessee." And this is what I tried to nail into Auburn fans this football season and everything. It's always worse than you think it is, or it always could be worse. So everybody was, the sky is falling, will never be better than 8 wins under Gus Malzahn. I was like, it could be a lot worse, folks, especially in the situation that Auburn found itself in. Thomas, what's going on, man? War Eagle, good to see you here, buddy. Thanks for popping in. Burnett was a 5-star out of high school and is a CG, and I don't think he'll have a problem playing the 2 spot. Mississippi State would be Pizza Hut. Their fans are greasy and gross. That's a good one. I don't know about greasy, but they're gross with the whole cowbell situation there. Bruce made this program. He's my favorite coach by far. He's been lucky enough to meet him twice. Yeah, I mean, I've not shaken his hand, but I've been, within close proximity and, shouted War Eagle at him, and he kind of, acknowledged it and stuff like that. But that's cool that you've gotten to meet him. Josh, I know we've missed you, man. He says, finally not busy doing the stream. Been a long week. Crazy to see how Auburn basketball has come since Alan Green took over and hired Pearl. Can I remind you that Alan Green did not hire Pearl? That was Jay Jacobs. Yeah. So let me. I don't know. I'm gonna be nice here to not about Josh or anything like that, but there are a lot of people that are starting to associate things with Alan Green that he had nothing to do with, and I'm not trying to take this away from him in any way. But you can see how easy it is to get on a hype train about someone and assume that they're the reason that Auburn's have all this success. No, the reason Auburn is having the level of success across the board that it is currently, now, year or two down the road, we can really start seeing the effects of Alan Green. That's because of Jay Jacobs. And I always like to bring that up to remind people that we had it pretty good with Jay Jacobs. I'm not saying he was perfect by any stretch of the imagination. Everybody doesn't make every decision correctly. But I just want to make sure we're aware of that Alan Green did not hire Bruce Pearl. He's only been here, 2 years now, I think. But he's done some good things since then. I think it's 3 years. Anyway, he didn't hire Bruce Pearl. Just want to make sure we clarified that. Casey, wait for it. We got hot, win 10 to 12 games in a row after Missouri. Bruce could pull the trigger and unshelf. Okay, sorry. Sometimes it's hard to make out when y'all are typing quickly on there and it's kind of run-on sentences. No, we're not going to. No, you don't pull yourself off of probation when you put yourself on probation. That you are admitting guilt at this point, and so to do that would be to put yourself in a very, very tough situation. I don't think we can unban ourselves. There we go. Look bad in front of the NCAA. I 100% agree there on that one. The SEC says Auburn softball team to finish 11th in the SEC. We have 14 upperclassmen. I think Auburn will win the SEC and can win it all and make it to the World Series. They are positioned to do that. But are the upperclassmen enough? Are they good enough to do that? We'll find out. So Casey asking what I think. I need to, again, there's so many things to cover and be up on in the Auburn spectrum, and I want to make sure that I don't speak out of turn here. So I have not analyzed this year's team, this program as much. I do know, like you said, about the upperclassmen situation, but I think they're always competitive, and I will probably hold my judgment until after non-conference play when I start seeing them compete against some SEC competition. So yeah, Josh, sorry I had to call you out for that one. But you're not, and I didn't say that to like come after you or anything like that. You're not the only one that's done that. It's so funny to watch how. So for instance, let me give you this, and I hear this is going to make some of y'all, or I know especially y'all on the replay that like to get mad at me for always being a Gus Malzahn advocate, but I'm going to say it anyway. A lot of people will not credit, or even they wouldn't credit Gene Chizik's early success. They would say it was all because of what Tommy Tuberville did. They wouldn't credit, Gus Malzahn because of what Gene Chizik had laid down there, and he just kind of took that and ran with it. It's the same thing. Alan Green is taking advantage of the foundation that Jay Jacobs left and is running with it so far, and it looks great, and I love him about it. So I always want to make sure that we kind of remember, just because we like the dude doesn't mean necessarily this is all him at this point. Give him another 2. It's kind of like the same idea as a coach. I like to give them 4 to 5 years, more towards the 5 side, to really get a full class through to see who they brought in. That I think that can be kind of escalated up to an athletic director as well. So that's kind of the way I like to think about it a little bit. All right, here's what I'd like to do from all of you. You guys can keep comments and questions coming throughout here. But let me bring this back up. Let's talk about the other games a little bit, too. I want to know who you think wins this one. Let's start at the top there. Alabama at Oklahoma. That's going to be a great matchup, I think. Alabama versus Oklahoma. Now, everybody take your orange or blue glasses off. Let's be honest about this. And if you want to pick Oklahoma, that's fine. But I want to see who you think wins that matchup. Alabama has definitely surprised some people this year, and pulled some things we didn't expect them to do. But I don't know. This is a good matchup though, because Oklahoma is pretty good. They've not been able to beat the likes of like Baylor and all that kind of stuff yet, but I do think that Oklahoma is a pretty decent team. I think this one will go down to the wire. It feels like Alabama is due for a little bit of a humbling at some point. I don't know this is where it happens, though. So I think I'll still put Bama in the win column on this one just to be on the safe side and be happy when it doesn't. Bama wins, pulling for and of course, I'm pulling for Oklahoma. Is Powell playing tomorrow? I have no information on that whatsoever. At this point, I'm assuming no, because the kid seems very hurt in terms of his getting back from that situation there. Texas and Kentucky just got canceled. So look, every time we are on this stream, something breaks. I don't know, like in terms of news, like literally, I don't know what happens. It's so you can just expect if you'll get on this stream, you'll find some news about Auburn or something in sports that'll happen. So I think the Tennessee thing happened while we were live streaming. A coaching hire for Auburn happened during the live stream. It was just crazy. Just crazy how that happens. And that's a shame. Texas and Kentucky would have been another great matchup as well. There's a lot of great ones in this one. But I would have really looked forward to that one, especially because you could have seen Greg Brown, who was thinking about coming to Auburn, at Texas against Kentucky. Now, Kentucky probably would have lost the way they're playing. How about this? Even though it's canceled, everybody right now, pick your winner out of that one. Texas versus Kentucky. What do you think? Let me back up here. Casey says, I'm tired of watching the Auburn basketball women's program. It's so bad I can't watch it anymore. I don't think it's bad. I think it's, it's not great. I'm a big fan of Coach Flournoy, but, I do think it's kind of time that some things start happening, a little bit better. And I'm not saying I would never advocate for a coach who's leading their team in the character department the way that she is. I'm not going to advocate for that in any way, but I understand the frustration. And I am, like I said, a huge advocate for her. but it's frustrating. So who do you think? Texas and Kentucky, even if we understand that it was going to, it is canceled at this point. Too much red and crimson in the game for my blood, Julie says. Oklahoma's beaten 3 top 25 teams. Alabama's consistent on 3. Sometimes Oklahoma wins the game by 5. Oklahoma wins the game by 5. I think it could possibly do that. Tim, War Sooner? I appreciate it, man. We always appreciate hearing feedback that you guys love it. We also appreciate hearing feedback that you don't love it. You know, I'm not above criticism and constructive criticism. You know, the whole "you suck" thing, or the guy who does the thumbs down before the stream even starts. Help me understand. I can't grow from that. We got a Texas prediction. Again, we are aware that Texas and Kentucky is canceled. Texas would have beaten Kentucky by 30. For the amount of money UK pays Calipari, you'd think he'd have more championships. That's a strong take right there. Wasting so much talent, Texas would have won. Okay, I agree. I think Texas probably would have won that one. Still would have been a great game against 2 powerhouses. Free Dylan Brooks. All right. All right, let's bring it back up here. We've talked about Alabama, Oklahoma. Let's do Arkansas at Oklahoma State. That's it. I think that'd be a dark horse. Oklahoma State's a good program. Arkansas State's got a lot of talent. Seems to be a pretty decent program. They're considered a quality win on the people's resume that have beaten them. So what do you think? Arkansas or Oklahoma State? What do you think? I would say, personally, I feel like Oklahoma State's going to win that one. Arkansas has been so streaky that I think Oklahoma State would get that win, especially because let me pull it back up here one more time. It is at Oklahoma State as well. Now, they're close proximity to each other, so I think in a normal era, teams would have traveled well. But I think I'll take Oklahoma State. Arkansas. Taking Arkansas. I'm not SEC bias at all. So let me bring that up while you guys continue to answer if you want to predict that one. I heard a conversation the other day about someone kind of ridiculing those that do not pull for the SEC, even though their team's in the SEC. I'm one of those. I want every SEC team, because they're all rivals in a certain sense, to certain degrees. To some extent, I want every SEC team to fail, to fall flat on their face so I can laugh at them. And I know that sounds sadistic and terrible and counterproductive. I acknowledge that it is counterproductive to your team in a certain sense. If your conference is bad except for you, a la Clemson in football, then you suffer as a program as well, because you're not competing against the best. They don't help you look better in terms of competition. I get it. That doesn't change the fact that I want every SEC team to fail and fail miserably, because they are my rivals. Because if they succeed, there is some success that they're having that's going to help them further and get better than Auburn. Oklahoma State by 10, Cade for 18. They do have a great player there. One of the top ones that are being considered for basketball player of the year. I don't pull for the SEC usually, but I like Arkansas for some reason. I guess I get that. Not an SEC fan. I am an AU fan. The only time I ever pull for the SEC team to win is if it helps Auburn. And I can get on board with that. Of course, there are situations where there was a time I pulled for Bama in one game because it would have helped Auburn, and they failed me, and I will never do it again. That was the one chance they had for me to pull for them, and they failed. So never again, sir. Never again. So Casey, I'm not going to bring your comment up on these shows and in this community. We do not call for or support messages of firing coaches or getting rid of players or anything like that. We have developed a community where we actually have coaches, their families, recruits, and players that feel welcome on our podcast network, our Facebook, or everywhere. So we don't support that type of stuff. So we try to keep that type of conversation. It's fine if you want to say you're frustrated with it. I think something needs to be done. But we're not going to support that thing. So not to really call you out in any way, but just want to be certain. We kind of clarify that kind of stuff. Because let me just be honest with you guys. They look at this stuff and they see it and it hurts them. It really does. I've talked to several of them. And that's why we've tried to develop this community the way it is. Let's see. I think it's because I can see that Arkansas is not usually a threat to Auburn. Usually, though. Usually. He wants his national letter of intent released by next Wednesday. The Dylan Brooks situation has been put on hold by the Hopel administration, and he wants to go to Auburn. We'll see if it happens. There's a lot of red tape to get through, but we'll see if it happens. All right, let's bring this back up. Okay, we're going to skip over Auburn, Baylor. Florida at West Virginia, another good matchup. What do you guys think there? Florida or West Virginia? Florida or West Virginia? What do you think? You should make a video about conference realignment. 2023 is coming soon. Missouri and Vanderbilt, South Carolina will leave the SEC. Auburn will move to the East. Oklahoma will come out of the West. Are you speculating, or do you have some information otherwise to say that it's going to happen? I'm not saying that we don't need to bring in more talent. I don't know that I want to get rid of anybody, to be honest with you, because I think that – because here's the thing, and I think maybe I don't want to put words in your mouth, but what I think that you're solely thinking about football. Vanderbilt brings to a lot to the table in other sports, usually basketball, not so much lately, baseball especially. Arkansas the same. They bring a lot to the plate in terms of track and field. Did you know that? They are an outstanding track and field program. Usually baseball, sometimes basketball. Every once in a blue moon, football. South Carolina, baseball and women's basketball. So you can't get rid of those teams simply because of those reasons, because they're not duds in every sport. Now, if they were a dud in every sport, I would say yes. But yeah, speculation, just my thoughts. So I get the speculation, but I think you're thinking of it solely from a one sport aspect. And you have to remember, and that's what we stress hard here on this network, is that it's not just all about football. Yes, football is the engine that drives the car, but the car still doesn't move. The car, there is no car if there's not the other parts with it. It's just an engine sitting there humming. So, let's see. Let me back up here. Nobody wanted to predict West Virginia or Florida? No predictions there. I'm going to say Florida. I think Florida is going to win that one. Archie has been a threat to AU since Bobby Petrino fell off his motorcycle. If Sharif was the 20th ranked recruit and is good, then imagine what the 5th ranked recruit Jabari can do. It looks good, right? Looks good for Auburn. Gunner seems like a Georgia quarterback designee. Personally, I'm not too bothered by him going there. Josh, I don't think you were one of the ones that was always clamoring for him, but please hear me, everybody, because I know everybody gets all up in arms when they think someone's trying to say I told you so. I'm not trying to say I told you so, but it kind of is that way. So many people came on the stream and were like, Gunner Stockton, Gunner Stockton, Gunner Stockton, Gunner Stockton. I told y'all, don't get your hopes up. I did tell you. I just said it. I know it was terrible on me on my part. I'm not trying to be rude about it, but I even texted a friend. I was like, I've been telling people on these live streams, do not get your hopes up about Gunner Stockton. There's too many other teams that play for him. Just because Mike Bobo here doesn't mean he's coming. And people had convinced themselves of that, and they got so mad on social media about it. This is part of the reason that I don't get so heavily invested in recruiting anymore. I used to. And I love the speculation of it, right? I love talking about it. I like to predict who might be coming. I love the thrill of signing day. But I don't get wrapped up in it anymore. West Virginia by 3. Anybody else want to predict that? I think we missed everybody on that point. So we'll move on to the next game here in a second. Let me catch up on some comments. Bandy baseball is usually always top-notch. And a lot of other programs, their basketball teams are usually okay. Pretty good. Not so much lately. Oklahoma isn't leaving the Big 12. The Big 12 would be even more trash without them. There might be a reason they leave. I think if you here's what will happen. If Auburn if the SEC expands again, it will be to a new market. So Oklahoma makes sense. West Virginia makes sense. A North Carolina team makes sense. That's a big market. So I think you could see something like that. Yeah, that would be the teams. I don't think you'll see another Texas team come into the fold. But I think Oklahoma, West Virginia, North Carolina, maybe in a Virginia team could sway some people to come over. I would love to see some of the traditional powers and rivalries come over, but I don't think that'll happen. Like, the Florida States, the Clemsons, the Georgia Techs, but that won't happen. Not necessarily think we need them anyway. Let's see. I'm of the opinion, but there should be a lot more good non-conference football games, random, but still, we need Auburn versus Penn States. We need more of Auburn versus Penn States with other teams. Yeah, I agree. I love non-conference games, but I don't know necessarily as much as I would want more of them. I think that would take away from the the unique quality of them if there were more of them. Think about it. Maybe, I don't know if you agree. South Carolina wants to win the championship. They would go back to the ACC. Missouri would go to the Big Ten. They were forced into the SEC. I don't think they were forced into the SEC, Casey. I think they were gladly accepting an offer to be in the SEC. And Auburn the SEC saw an opportunity for a new market. And it's probably worked out really well for them. Let's see. I think Gunner comes to Auburn when it's all said and done. So that's, Casey, there's a chance there, right, that something can happen. But it's real close to signing day. The crazier things have happened. I've watched them happen on signing day. I just don't think this one's going to go Auburn's way. So I would personally put Gunner over there, and if it happens, be ecstatic, but don't get too excited about it. Seems like Auburn is one of the only teams who plays hard non-conference. Well, you kind of have to, right? You have to earn respect. Alabama doesn't have to earn respect right now. And, from their perspective, why bother? They got a decent game next year against Miami. Decent. Not great, but decent. Clemson twice, Oregon, Washington all in the last 5 years, and it's pretty dang tough. So Gus wasn't able to beat Clemson. He beat Oregon. He beat Washington. He beat Louisville. Louisville was good. That was when Lamar Jackson was their quarterback. I was there at that game in the Georgia Dome, the last game I saw in the Georgia Dome. There's a couple things you'll never be able to take away from Gus Malzahn. The character of his program, his ability to beat Alabama, better than anyone else right now. And he took care of business for the most part in non-conference play, for the most part. It's hard to beat Clemson. It's kind of like the Alabama situation. He always was competitive against them. But he usually took care of business in non-conference. Bowl games, that's a different story. I'll give you credit for that on the Gunner situation. Everyone thought he was a lock, and you did mention him being in UGA territory. And look, it's not me being right about it. It's just I have information that I think is pretty solid from sources. And I know that's easy to say, but I try to not rely on my personal feelings if I have information otherwise. Phillip Rivers moving back to Alabama would be nice to have as a QB coach. I think we won't see that happen, Neil. It would be cool. Did you know that he wanted to come to Auburn? Did you know that? Kind of sad that never did happen. Super conferences are the next realignment, more than likely 16-plus teams. Tubbs predicted this years ago. So, Russell, I love this take, and personally, this kind of goes back to a bigger conversation, and we've gotten real off from our basketball conversation. We'll get back to that in just a second, but I want to keep y'all's comments coming. This is a topic that I think fixes a lot of the problems, and we've talked a lot about how to fix the playoffs, how to expand the playoffs. To do that, my vision is that you form 8 super conferences. That wasn't even right. God, Kyle, I'm struggling today. 8 super conferences. I'm not going to put the fingers up because I'll mess it up again. And you force every team that wants to be part of the major playoff system, not the FCS, but the major playoff system, to be part of these conferences. You force everybody to play within their conference, maybe one non-conference game. If you can't win your championship of your conference, you don't go to the playoffs. No questions, no arguments otherwise. And I get that there's sometimes that, a great team outside of the championship game that lost in the championship game, the deserves might be there. The case is always from the SEC. I get that. But if you weren't good enough to beat and win you're beating that other team in the championship and win, you don't really deserve to be there because the odds would say that you'd lose again to that team. So you're not better than them. You're not a better representative of your conference. So I think personally, eliminates all the arguments, allows more parity, gives opportunity for the UCFs, the Cincinnati's to say, hey, you don't give us our chance. Well, now you have your chance because you're in one of the super conferences. So that's why I brought that up. UCF to the east, Florida State to the east, Oklahoma, West Virginia to the west. West Virginia should be in the east. Geographically, I get what you're trying to say there, but I'm tired of this whole mix match thing. In that case, let's switch Missouri and West Virginia if they came. And I know in your scenario you said Missouri leaves. Let me give you a hint. Missouri and Texas A&M are going nowhere. Too big of an investment to have them go anywhere else. Nose just got really itchy. I think every Power 5 team should play at least one decent non-conference. That's fair, and I think that should happen. Bama thinks they have an easy schedule, and they can't beat Auburn at home. Auburn wins the West next year. Bold prediction, Casey. I don't think it happens. If it does, I'm not complaining, though. If Rhett Rashley, sounds like Rutrow, if Rhett Rashley pulls off against Bama next year, we need him back. Doubtful on Miami competing with Bama, though. It's very doubtful. Neil says he was also at the Auburn-Louisville game. Jeremy Johnson looked good, but threw a couple of interceptions. Lamar Jackson came in to start the second half. I think you're right. And wow, did he look good. That was the start of the Lamar Jackson era there. Auburn has found a way to make some quarterbacks begin their eras. They began Matt Leinart. I remember that game. That was frustrating against USC. It's happened a lot. Let's see. Texas A&M has no quarterback. Auburn gets Alabama and Georgia at home. LSU being so bad. LSU's bad this year. Remember that. Doesn't mean it's going to be the same next year. I did know we wanted to come to the AU. Just think of the quarterbacks that got away. Brett Favre, Russell Wilson. That one hurts. That one hurts a lot. I really thought he was going to come in after Cam Newton. We would have been in a really good spot had he come. Think 10 playoff teams. You should think about the independent teams too. So, Casey, remember, in my scenario, there are no independents. That's it. If you want part of the playoff, you have to be part of these conferences. That way there's no discussion about, well, my conference is better than your conference. No. 8 conferences, however big they need to be. You play as many games as you can within your conference, one non-conference game, because I think that is going to be a necessity, just to kind of prove that you can do something outside of that. Well, actually, in the scenario where only the conference matters, no, it doesn't. But it could help with rankings and stuff like that, because how would you seed those conference championships? You need rankings, so that could help that. So it still could happen. Playoff simplification would benefit everyone. 18 playoff would be nice. 16 conference championship auto qualifier is also a good idea of yours. No, I think personally, outside of 6, I think 16 is getting a little too big right now. I think 8's the perfect number because that's 3 weeks. And really the bowl season is about 3 to 4 weeks outside of the championship game and delay leading up to that. So I think personally you get 8 of the best bowl games out there. And you say these are part of the playoffs, and you can rotate them just like now, and conference champions go to it. That's it. No questions asked, because the conversation is much greater for who is 5 and 6, and are they better than number 4. That's a easier conversation to have than it is for 9 and 10 versus 8. There's usually a pretty clear definition if someone deserves to be there or not at that point. Mund is considering coming back to Texas A&M. I'm not surprised. He never leaves E. By the way, good to see you, man. Always good to see you here. Mund will be a Tut situation. He's already declared and signed an agent. I think Kellen Mund is having the realization that it's not going to get much better than Texas A&M for him. I hate to say it. Not saying he's a bad quarterback. I just don't think it's going to get much better for him. All right, we've got a lot of new people that popped in. If you haven't, smash that like button. Let's roll through some of these real quick. Before we get out of here, we've talked about Bama and Oklahoma, Arkansas and Oklahoma State, Auburn and Baylor a little bit, Florida and West Virginia, Texas and Kentucky is canceled, and we've already kind of talked about that one. All right, fast pace here. You pick one, Texas Tech or LSU. Who wins that one? You pick that one. Get your picks in now. I will say Texas Tech wins this one. They're too good of a program right now. I think LSU, with all their cheating ways, is still not good enough to beat Texas Tech. So I think they do win. How awesome would that have been to beat Auburn and Texas Tech in that championship game 2 years ago? Would have been amazing. Neil says Texas Tech. Imagine a 64-team playoff in college football, 23-game seasons. Whew. That's tough. That's tough. Texas Tech pick here. Whoops, sorry, Josh. There you go. I like 8 as well. It seems like top 8 include the obvious dominant teams. I just keep hearing so many pushing for the lower division playoff setup. Like 32 teams, way too many in my opinion. I don't think it's way too many at some point, but you got to baby step this thing. It took us forever to get 4 teams in a playoff. 8 teams is the next logical step. Realignment to super conferences is logical as well. I think that's what needs to happen. Auburn finishes the class in the top 25. I think that's a pretty good chance there with 8 to 12 chancers. I hope there's not that many transfers, to be honest with you. I really, really don't. Salt Army's back. What's going on? Good to see you, man. I'm hearing Scuda Henderson is really big on Auburn, being one of the top point guards in the country. It'd be huge if we can get him after Reef. Yes, we need to. Now, I am not knocking a potential transfer point guard, but I do think personally we need to find the next one. I'm tired of Band-Aids. I want solutions, not Band-Aids. Hot take there. All right, let me bring it back up. Most people pick Texas Tech. How about Iowa State over or at Mississippi State? Who wins that one, in your opinion? I'm going to say Iowa State, I think, wins that one. We're heavy on the Big 12 right now. Texas Tech prediction coming in here late. I hate Mitchell is at Baylor. He'll be playing with a chip on his shoulder and probably guard Sharif. We talked a lot about this earlier in the stream, and I'm sorry you missed it. You have to go back and look at that, but we talked a lot about that dynamic and how that's probably the really cool storyline for us to follow. Hate that he didn't stay at Auburn, but he clearly made the best decision for himself. So I'm happy for him personally. A little jealous, but it'll be cool to watch that happen. Did you see? Hold on. Back up here. Did you see Tim Hudson is on the Hall of Fame ballot? Yes, I did, and he deserves to be there. It'll probably be a season or two, or a year or two before he actually gets up there in the voting ranking. There's enough controversy with all the voting right now anyway, so got to get through all that for Tim to have his shot. Although there's not much questions with his integrity and stuff, so if they want an easy vote in, Tim's the guy. Iowa State. I think Iowa State's got this one. Here, let me bring up the next one. TCU at Missouri. That one's probably not the biggest game out there. Missouri's okay. They've got some talent with Quanzo Martin. I didn't say okay. We just beat them. They're good. Let me rephrase what I just said. That was a stupid statement, Kyle. They're good. I don't know how TCU is, though, this year. They've been good in the past. Don't really know what to think of that one. What do y'all think? Probably Missouri, but I'll go with Missouri on that one. Stereotypical Auburn fan says Mizzou. If Tim Hudson got in, it would be the second Auburn player in the MLB Hall of Fame. It would be, and we'll have, I think, a few more heading that way. I think Josh Donaldson will be there. The pitcher out of Detroit. Cannot believe I'm blanking on his name. Tanner Burns could be there at some day as well. Mizzou wins. Mississippi State. I think it was a late prediction there, but let's see. I haven't heard many mentioned, but in Harson's last presser, he expressed frustration with the NCAA on immediate transfer rule inhibits his 21 class plan because of the unknown. Any thoughts? That makes sense to me, Russell. As I've said throughout this stream, I'm not a huge fan of heavily relying on transfers, but they are a necessity, especially when there are opportunities to get great players to come in that want to transfer for their last year or something like that. But I view them as Band-Aids as opposed to solutions. And I don't mean that mean, because we've had great transfers, great Band-Aids, Cam Newton, Nick Marshall. There's plenty of them. So I'm not opposed to it, but his frustration makes sense because I think that helps him make the decision, okay, who do I need to spend all my time recruiting if I can get these transfer situations figured out. Mizzou wins redemption game? Probably so. Missouri by 10. Casey Mize, thank you. Thank you so much. I'm ashamed of myself for forgetting that. All right, let's keep moving here. Got a lot of people popping in here. If you're enjoying the content, make sure you smash that like button, please. We're almost done with our stream here too, but we've got a few more things to cover. All right, Kansas at Tennessee. That's a good game right there. It's funny how all these things line up, right? They made this schedule a year previous, and while you can assume that Tennessee, Florida, Kentucky, Auburn would probably be decent, it's taking a chance on some of these games. But there's some great matchups for the SEC Big 12. So who do you got, Kansas or Tennessee? I've got some family ties to this. My future, I was making sure I wasn't going to spoil anything. Future sister-in-law was like, yes, they're engaged now. Remember that guy. My future sister-in-law is a Kansas fan. She's an Auburn fan too, but she's mainly a Kansas fan. Their family has a lot of family, I think, ties to that. So I will probably pull for Kansas because obviously I want to see Tennessee not be too good. But I think Kansas will win that one. What do y'all think? Let me come back to your summary comments. Oh, Doc, interesting. What's the best way to donate to your channel? So, great question. All right, everybody, y'all can who gets tired of me saying this, I'm going to go ahead and do that. Here are the ways you can do this. It's a great time to do this though, while you guys get your predictions in. So here's the ways you can help support. We obviously talk about listening to the podcast. If you know any sponsors out there that want to be part of having ads on the podcast, you can let me know. Honestly, the easiest thing for you to do is to do PayPal, paypal.me/E2C network. You can do any amount there. One day we'll have advertisements here on the YouTube channel and be able to do the super boost or the chat thing where you can give all that kind of stuff. But the thing I always try to recommend to folks is so you can get something out of this is to do the patreon.com/E2C network, because you can do as little as $1 a month and get yourself a lot of stuff. There's another tier like $5 a month. You can do any amount there per month, but those are the tiers where you start getting new and better things on there. So we've had a lot of people sign up for that. So the link for you can see most of the links there, but I will put the Patreon in there, copy right now, for you to check out if you want to go at least see what it's all about. You don't have to sign up for anything, but I appreciate you asking that and bringing that up. So thank you so much for that. All right, let me get back to this stuff. You probably talked about it, but do you think Sharif will take off next year? I'm leaning towards he's staying right now, and that's a lean. That's like me really wanting to lean. I think that's more preferential than looking at it logically. I hope he sees the opportunity for him. The problem is if he continues to do as well as he's doing, there are going to be a lot of NBA teams throwing some money at him. So, yeah. Trevin Wallace, 4-star linebacker, is going to pick Kentucky over us probably. Yeah, that had a little bit of steam early or with the new staff coming in, but I think it slowed down a little bit. I think the whole Travis Williams thing, unfortunately made a few of those recruits upset because they really, really liked him. All right, we got a Tennessee pick in that one. Any other picks? Tennessee by 2. Felix, what's going on, man? War Eagle. So I will say, I'm actually going to say that Kansas wins this one. Tennessee's good, but I think Kansas is better. I've watched them play a couple times with my future sister-in-law. Auburn baseball wins the College World Series this year. So much talent depth. I don't know Casey's making a lot of bold predictions. I love it. I do. I just don't think they're quite there. They can get to the World Series. I think they can. We'll see. I'm trying to get everybody's comments in here. Do you think it was a mistake to fire Gus before early signing day? Well, before or after. I know this frustrates so many of y'all that I could still support Gus Malzahn. And my support of Gus Malzahn is not indicative of not supporting Brian Harsin. Let me say that clearly, because I have talked to some individuals that clearly cannot grasp that. That simply because I was upset and think it was a poor decision to fire Gus Malzahn doesn't mean I won't support Brian Harsin, and not currently supporting. I think people are so angry at Gus Malzahn that they can't just get that through their heads. Anyway, Soapbox put away. Yes, and I think it was a mistake, period. But we'll see what happens. Tennessee, Kansas, Kentucky, North Carolina, and Duke all have been struggling this weird COVID year. It's Josh, man, this has been so crazy this whole year. This thing's been crazy, especially with all the parity we've seen here. Be a detriment for multiple transfers come in with immediate eligibility only to be later ruled ineligible. FSU, multiple transfers may have to sit out a year wasting a scholarship. Yeah, it could be very frustrating for them. I think he should stay. Can you imagine him and Jabari? So the thing that you have to think about Sharif Cooper, that is very enticing to be with the current team that's here, with Jabari Smith, with Trey Alexander coming in, healthy Justin Powell. But if he's in the top 5, can you blame the kid? I can't. I think he could use another year, but I'm wrong. But I probably will be wrong on that one. Powell is a lottery pick. He will be. I don't know that he'll be after his issues this year. It depends on if Sharif is in the top 10, if he's hard to come back. Yep. Are Carson Skipper and Ed Johnson still in the Auburn baseball team? Went to grade school, part of the middle school. I think Carson is. I don't know about Ed Johnson. I'm pretty sure Carson Skipper is. Sharif is a certified lottery. Yeah. So anyway, all right. Let's round out some of this discussion here. We've got one more game: Texas A&M at Kansas State. Who wins that one? Texas A&M at Kansas State. Who wins that one? Probably another game that's not the most exciting. Kansas State has struggled a little bit this year. Texas A&M is decent. I'm going to say Texas A&M. Believe it or not, I'm going to say Texas A&M. What's his name? Buzz Williams. He's annoying at times, but I'm starting to respect him as a coach. We got K-State. Oh, wow, a lot of predictions. K-State. I can't type. We figured out K-State with the home court. Yeah, I think K-State has opportunity though, but I don't know. I like Buzz Williams and Texas A&M. Enjoyed listening to the podcast, and thank you for it. War Eagle. I appreciate that, Russell. And remember, I don't know if when you say the podcast, this is just the live streams that we do. We do actual podcast network, so I hope that you check that out as well. And whenever someone brings it up, I'll put in the links in here in the chat window. That's the Apple Podcast. You can find it on any podcast thing though, where we cover all kinds of topics: track and field, equestrian, football, basketball, random topics. It's all there. All right, so here let's finally, and I'll get back to some of y'all's other questions and comments here, but everybody who's here, Auburn or Baylor, this is your final pick. Who wins? Auburn or Baylor? We've talked about it. Most of us have speculated that we're hopeful for Auburn, but we think Baylor will win. You're on the record now, ladies and gentlemen. Auburn or Baylor? Pick it. While you're doing that, let me back up here. When I was talking about the Gus situation and all that stuff, I agree, because if Harsin has to deal with the same chaos Gus did, expect similar or worse results with his staff. And that's the way I approach this is, I shouldn't go there. Essentially, I've never seen someone being supportive of a coach who was getting fired be such a divisive issue. Like I've never seen that before, and from people I didn't expect. It was just crazy, absolutely crazy. Some people were so focused on winning that they literally hated a man there was nothing to hate about other than the fact that he didn't win as many football games as he won. I'm sorry. He got me started again. I'm done. Let's see. K-State basketball program. You love them for some reason. Well, they've had some good success. Felix says he likes the recruiting he's doing so far. Well, he hasn't really brought in anybody yet, right? I mean, obviously that doesn't mean that he's not doing work. There's some people turning some heads there. So I don't dislike it, but I don't see any results yet, Felix. Isaac Okoro wanted to come back, but Bruce told him that he's not coming back because of his stock was too high. I wonder if Bruce will say the same to Reef. I think the thing that's different between Okoro and Reef is that their bodies are different, and I think being a smaller guard, he needs some time to build a little bit of mass. Okoro was ready, just build-wise, skill-wise. I mean, his shot needed a little bit of work, but he was such a great defender. It was time. I think there's a better argument to make for Sharife Cooper than there is for Isaac Okoro to stay. All right, we got the picks coming in. Let's see. Auburn, Baylor. Back at Texas A&M there. Unfortunately, Baylor. Let's hope for Auburn, but realistically, Baylor, I think we will lose a close, painful loss. Auburn by 8-12. Baylor will probably double Sharife like Arkansas and make the other guys beat them. And I think E-Money continues to be very wise in his assessment of that. I believe Auburn has an opportunity to upset Baylor and can do that. Has the talent, the players, has the ability to do that. I think Baylor's just too good, though. Especially if this was in Auburn, I think I give the push to Auburn. I think Baylor's too good. So I'm going to go on the Baylor route here and be pleasantly surprised when it happens. And then you all can come back and say, ha, I told you so, Kyle. Sharife will block 14 shots this game and give Baylor their own medicine. Well, if Sharife Cooper blocks 14 shots, we have won the game. I can guarantee you that. Do you think Powell will come back? Oh, man. I am so worried about this kid's health at this point because I've just never seen a concussion take someone out for so long. Yeah, I don't know, man. I really don't at this point. I'm getting less and less hopeful by the day. There was like that point about after the fourth game missed, I was like, okay, something's up. Something's up here. So I don't know. Not for this game, I don't think. He wouldn't be ready for this game. If he's going to come back, it needs to be in a game where he can make a few mistakes. So I don't know. Auburn just needs to out-rebound Baylor. Easy clap. Reef and Powell dropping dimes left and right. Sign me up. I hope he's good. I hope he's good too. And we got to do what's best for the kids. So yeah. Sharife needs to put on more weight and work on his three. However, he's just so talented, extremely smart, and composed. I think if we win this game, it will be Reef's vision and assist. I don't know if you were here on Beaten Lake. I said this earlier. I think that what is most valuable about Sharife Cooper is not his scoring ability because it's very inconsistent at this point. Not inconsistent, but he's either 20 points or 11 points. It's kind of in between. I think Sharife Cooper setting other people up is what makes this team better. And that goes back to his vision and assist. So if he does what he normally does, Auburn will be in a position to get the upset. If Sharife Cooper gets his points, I think Auburn wins. And he can do that simply by going to the free throw line. I saw an article says he's mentally ready, but he's dealing with headaches. And that always comes with that kind of stuff, right? It's scary stuff. Football related. Davis comes in with a 70% completion percentage out of high school. Bo came in with a 57. I can't wait for Davis to take quarterback one. So Preston, I don't know if you're new, Preston, but you kind of walked into the wall here, and we've had somebody recently that did not like my opinions about the whole Davis situation. High school is high school. College is college. It's as simple as that. Now, that doesn't mean we shouldn't look at their high school tapes and stats and be excited about it, because what you're talking about in Bo Nix was the most decorated quarterback in Alabama history. Were you aware of that? There's been a lot of great ones. Most decorated quarterback in Alabama history, and the high school Alabama history. So we can pick these little things all day and say that Demetrius Davis deserves to be the starter over Bo Nix. It's a much different translation. Doesn't mean his talent not there. It doesn't mean he won't. And in fact, if he is as good as advertised, Auburn wins either way, because either that pushes the competition so hard that Bo Nix is forced to reach his potential, or Davis is better and we get better. So there's either way. So I'm not picking on you, Preston, at all, but I always am interested when everybody's argument, all it is for the whole Davis starting over Bo thing is because he looked good in high school. A lot of people looked good in high school. So and remember too, completion percentage the quarterback can put it on the money. Receiver has to catch it. So always remember that. Sharif's whoa, I backed up here. Sharif's basketball IQ is so tremendous, far ahead than everyone else on the court. It's crazy to watch it. It really is. I haven't seen somebody like that in quite some time. Do people remember Khalil Garnett? Great point, Darius. Everybody are counting him out. Who knows if he's better at this point? I've heard Davis may get the start. I think it'll get worked out in the first few games. I've heard a lot of things as well. Doesn't mean they're true. This whole, if I could use something to support my opinion on this, is that everybody was convinced Gunnar Stockton was coming to Auburn because of Mike Bobo. And unfortunately, I'm not trying to be the I told you so guy, but I was right about that. So don't get on the Davis hype man so hardcore that when Bo Nix is the starter and it proves to be the best one, that you're so upset that Davis isn't getting the opportunity was. Because remember, the guy who is all the backup quarterback is always the most favorite guy. Bo needs a better O-line. Yes. Running for his life. That's a big thing there. I agree with you, but do you agree there's a lot harder competition in Texas there is by Alabama? Depends on the area. Texas is so much bigger than Alabama. It depends on the area he was in, and I don't know. So I agree that by proportions, there's more talent out there, but it's so spread out that's a hard comparison to make. Now, if you were going to say Alabama and Mississippi, that's obvious. Georgia and Alabama, that's a tougher one to make. Georgia or Alabama and Florida, that's a tougher one to make. You can't really compare the Texas situation in high school to any other state. Maybe Florida, maybe Ohio, maybe California. I don't know. I don't know if you can really make that thing. But your point, like you seem pretty like reasonable about your opinion on that, so that's why I'm not coming at you hardcore about it. But it always, like I said, we had somebody recently who got all upset because I challenged them on that. People's feelings get hurt because they can't handle a disagreement. Khalil Garnett is my favorite quarterback. I think he should get more hype around him. He's a pro quarterback. He's so good. How do you know? We haven't seen him play yet. I think that's a bit of a strong statement. He does deserve a chance, though, I think. And he'll get it. He gets it in practice every day. And if Coach Harsin thinks he's the best one, if he thinks Davis is the best one, that's who he'll play. It reminds me of the Joey Gatewood bandwagon. It really does. But the good thing is we got to see Joey Gatewood on the field, and you see why he wasn't the starter. Just because the guy seems to be good doesn't mean he is. You can look good in high school all you want. It's got to translate on the field. Case in point, Bo Nix. Which it has translated on the field in some instances, but not all of them. If you can get the guy on offensive line, he gets better. And I think E is like, I don't know how E gets in my head. He says things better than I would. And I think that what his point here would say, that the whole levels situation, all that is crazy. It's hard to compare that. I think Khalil Garnett should be the starter over Bo Nix. I think we all are going to go out on a limb here and say Casey's kind of a little bit stretching there on this one. And Casey, please remember, we're not going to be taking shots at coaches and players here, and I'm not going to address your comments if you do that. So just be aware of that. Okay, let's see. Bo is a great quarterback when he sets his feet and has time. He throws darts when he's comfortable. Let's be patient and finally give him a solid pocket to operate. Excited about Davis's future. Exactly. So here's the thing. They're not mutually exclusive. You don't have to be on one bandwagon or the other. I'm excited about Demetrius Davis coming, but it doesn't mean that I'm not excited about Bo Nix being my quarterback and him finally maybe having an offensive line to play behind this year. So that's what I will say on this one, though, is that they're not mutually exclusive. And I think we're such a... I'm going to get on my soapbox for a minute, okay? Everybody just let me be on my soapbox. We are such a divided nation on everything. Everybody thinks you have to be this or that or this or that. If you aren't one of these things, then what are you doing? And in some way, it's fun to do that in like sports and stuff like that. Obviously, Auburn, Alabama, that's stuff that, that's not in the grand scheme of important things. But you don't have to be like one way or the other. And if you're not, it has to be upset about this. So I'm upset. I was upset about the Gus Malzahn fire. But here I am having a live show about Brian Harsin and what he's doing and being excited about some of the things he's doing. Doesn't have to be both ways. Or it can be both ways. I guess what I should have said. Anyway, soapbox gone. I'm a huge fan of quarterback competition. Always wins. It is always great for a team. Got to have an O-line. Bobo's offense will take a year to learn, not only for Davis, but also for Nick's pro style. So I think I've been preaching patience, and you seem to be too, for Auburn fans this year. Nothing against big physical wide receivers, but who's going to take that Eli flash role? When we talked on the last stream, I said maybe Javarius Johnson, maybe. We talked on a previous stream, who's the unit on Auburn's football team that has you the most worried? For me, it's wide receivers. I'm really worried. There's talent there, but will it rise to the occasion? I don't know. Bruh, I was playing NCAA 09. How much did I miss? Everything. We're literally about to get out of here, War Productions. You'll have to go watch the replay. We've covered everything here. But it's been a great stream. We've had one of our lower numbers, but y'all have been so interactive and so great in terms of just great questions and comments and perspectives. Like, honestly, let me just have a feel-good moment here for a second. So we were talking yesterday, I think it was last stream, there's another Auburn streamer out there who's been doing something similar, probably in a different way. This is what this is about here. I'm not going to sit here and try to be y'all's, like, I know everything person, but I am in front of the microphone, so I'm going to obviously share my perspectives and reactions. But this is about y'all and the Auburn family, and that's what this network is about, the podcast network, the stream that we do, all this stuff. So I hope that y'all are enjoying this and love the interaction and stuff like that, because that's what we wanted to make this about and be a little bit different from some of the other Auburn media entities out there. We're not trying to be all about we're the source for everything. We got some information. But we're more about us connecting with you guys, the Auburn family. So there's your feel-good moment. Hopefully it ends on a good note there. I know, Casey, we know you weren't taking shots, but the thing that I always say is, just like I said earlier, we've got players, families of coaches, and we got people very well connected, and we always want to make sure that we are creating an environment where they feel welcome to be here. So just always remember that when you're part of these things here. Opinions, just because you have opinions in the two doesn't mean you should share them. And that goes for double for me too. And I've gotten in trouble with some of my opinions on here. I've had to go back and retract too. They need to give Shedrick the ball some. I would love to see him rise to the occasion. I swear 90% of the wide receivers on the depth chart are over 6'2". There's some good height to work with there too, right? We got to be more patient as a fan base. Bo's a gamer and he has heart. Hopefully the game slows down for him. It seems he still isn't comfortable as a college quarterback, and I wouldn't be either with that offensive line. Oh yeah, Kalen Newton. We all forgot about him. I'm a fan of Bo, but he reminds me of Kellen Mond, and it's going to take 4 years for him to finally get in the groove. Who's the best story for that, Preston? Jason Campbell. And think how revered he is now and what he gave us. And this is, y'all are getting me on this is not a soapbox. This is my feel-good story. That is the Auburn story. And it sucks. It makes things tough at times. The Auburn story is always the harder story. It's the story of Coach Jordan and Pat Sullivan. Pat Sullivan chose to take a walk as opposed to get in a motorcade with Bear Bryant. It was the longer road, the harder road, but look how much, and now we look back on that it was such fond memories, and it was all worth it. It was worth it for him, clearly. So that's the true Auburn story. The harder road, the less successful road, but it's the Auburn way, and that's what makes it so much more special. Anyway, all right, y'all got me all in the Auburn feel mode here. The fact that this is in Waco makes it so much more scary. It really is. It has nothing to do with me being good, Felix. It's all about you guys, but I appreciate you enjoying this live chat here. All right. A lot of good comments here at the end. I'm not going to be able to address them all, but thank you guys so much. Y'all have done a great job. Again, a couple of reminders here before you head out. Those are ways that you can help support the content here. Again, I think I didn't see him, but if he happens to watch, Cord, thank you so much for the PayPal donation. For those of you that sign up for the Booster Club for as little as $1 a month. And final reminder here, we do have a TeePublic sale. You can go to and check out our design. It's more, actually, I got the wrong thing up here. It's 35% off. You can get like our logo, some other Auburn gear if you want to check that out. $13 tee, some good stuff there. So I hope that you'll find a way to help support the content here, even if you just hit the like button if you enjoyed this today. And stay tuned. We'll probably have some more streams over the next couple of days. Till I talk to you guys again, War Eagle.